Our protagonist, Corporal Ethan Hughes, a steadfast and valiant figure, had always been drawn to the concept of honor. Born and raised in a poverty-riddled town in Nevada, he saw military service as a beacon of hope, not just for himself, but for his family too. So when he was of age, he enlisted, trading the dust-coated streets of his hometown for the structured discipline of army life. When his orders came in for deployment to Al-Zara, considered one of the most hazardous war zones in the world, he didn't falter. His resolve was strong, his heart ablaze with the desire to protect the ones he loved, no matter the cost. Ethan's time in Al-Zara was brutal, the harsh terrain and unrelenting violence taking a toll on even the toughest soldiers. One day, during a routine patrol, his unit was ambushed. Separated from his comrades and captured by enemy forces, Ethan was plunged into a nightmare far worse than any battlefield. They held him in a dimly lit, vermin-infested cell, torturing him both physically and psychologically. Ethan withstood pain unimaginable, his sanity clinging to the edge of a precipice as each day was filled with despair and torment. Yet his spirit refused to yield. One fateful night, Ethan found a weak spot in his handcuffs. The years of erosion had weakened the iron, and with a well-placed strike against the wall, they shattered. His heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline flooding his senses. With stealth and precision, he dispatched 5 guards, his military training guiding him through the blood-soaked hallways of the prison. After a harrowing escape, he stumbled upon a U.S. military patrol. Upon his return to base, his superiors deemed him unfit for duty. The trauma had left him a shell of his former self, his once vibrant eyes now bearing the weight of unspeakable horrors. He was sent home, trading his rifle for a one-way ticket back to Nevada. Back home, Ethan found himself trapped in another kind of war zone, one within his own mind. He was haunted by the ghosts of the men he'd killed, their faces appearing in his dreams, their screams echoing in his ears. The once familiar surroundings of his hometown felt alien and hostile, and the faces of his family morphed into those of his captors, a macabre illusion born of his tortured psyche. He withdrew from those he loved, his fear of hurting them outweighing his need for their comfort. He spent sleepless nights pacing the floors, the walls of his home feeling as suffocating as his prison cell in Al-Zara. He would often wake up in cold sweats, his hands searching for handcuffs that were no longer there. The mere clinking of utensils would send him spiraling into a flashback, the memories of his torture looming over him like an ever-present specter. His family, though supportive, was at a loss. They saw a stranger in Ethan, his once bright personality replaced by a haunted, restless man. He felt their worry, their fear, and it only served to deepen his sense of isolation. His past experiences had erected a wall between him and the rest of the world, a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. Ethan's breaking point came one stormy night. A bolt of lightning illuminated the face of his younger brother, momentarily casting him as one of his tormentors. In his terror, Ethan attacked, nearly strangling his brother before the veil of his illusion lifted. The reality of his actions devastated Ethan. He was a danger to those he loved, his mind a ticking time bomb of traumatic triggers. In a desperate plea for help, Ethan checked himself into a veteran's psychiatric hospital. The hospital was quiet and soothing, with sympathetic staff and the constant hum of life that echoed within its walls. The struggle was far from over, but for the first time since his return, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. In the hospital, Ethan was diagnosed with severe post-traumatic stress disorder, a common aftermath of the horrors of war. The psychiatric team assigned to him introduced him to various therapies, from cognitive behavioral therapy to eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Each session was like diving headfirst into his traumas, revisiting them to rob them of their power. It was draining, agonizing, but necessary. Despite the hardship, Ethan fought on, his resolve mirroring the same strength he'd shown in Al-Zara. He began to notice small changes, nights that were a little less sleepless, moments of silence that weren't filled with screams, and meals where the clinking of cutlery was merely a background noise. However, the battle was not one-sided. There were moments when he would slide back, the trauma pulling him into its dark depths. The faces would return, the suffocating fear and panic setting in. But with each encounter, he was better equipped to fight back. After months of therapy and numerous setbacks, Ethan was allowed a visit from his family. He saw the fear in their eyes, quickly replaced with relief as they took in the subtle changes in him. The visit was awkward, filled with hesitations and forced smiles, but it was a start. It was the first thread in the fabric of rebuilding their relationship. One particularly haunting night, Ethan awoke from a nightmare, his hands shaking, cold sweat trickling down his face. He was back in that prison cell, the screams echoing around him. But instead of sinking into panic, he recalled the coping strategies his therapist had taught him. Deep breaths, grounding himself, reminding himself that he was safe. Gradually, his trembling ceased, and for the first time, Ethan managed to chase away the specters of his past on his own. His recovery was slow, and by no means linear, filled with moments of progress and bouts of regressions. But with every day, Ethan fought his battles, both internal and external. His story was not one of heroic deeds or battlefield glory. Instead, it was a tale of survival, of facing one's demons, of accepting help, and most importantly, of the relentless human spirit. When you subscribe, be sure to hit the notification bell. Click here for more true scary stories.